Hi Amber, this is your sausage gravy tutorial for making biscuits and gravy. So I'm just going to show you what I have to start with. First I'm going to say, if you're going to buy biscuits, buy the frozen ones because they're way better. So don't use the roll can thing. Ugh. Alright, so I have a pound of pork sausage from the butcher. I've got some whole milk, some flour, 2 tablespoons of butter, my pepper, my salt, and paprika. You can use other spices. I'm not making this too spicy because I'm taking some to my parents, but you can kick it up with some crushed red pepper if you want, or chipotle. Okay. And this is my cast iron skillet, but any kind of skillet will work. It just needs to be pretty big. And I'm going to start by, I've got my heat at about medium. I'm going to start by melting my butter and letting it brown a little bit. And when it gets there, I'll come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, so my butter's just about there. It's browned slightly, and browning it just brings like a fuller, richer flavor. So now I'm going to add my sausage. Okay, so my sausage is in, and I usually let it brown just a little bit before I start breaking it up. Okay, now I'm going to bust up my sausage. And I like to get it broken apart pretty well. So I just use a wood spoon. But if you've got one of those Pampered Chef choppy things, that works really well. So I'm browning my sausage, and I just want to say, you may be tempted to turn the heat up to make it go faster, but don't do that. So we're going to cook this until it's cooked through, but not well done. So we want just all the pink gone. And it a little bit darker brown, but you don't want it like that crispy sausage. It's not the vibe for gravy because it messes with the texture. Okay, my sausage is just about where I want it. So now, the rule for roux is you want equal parts fat and starch. So I put 2 tablespoons of butter, but I don't know exactly how much fat came out of the sausage itself. So I'm gonna guess it's about 4 tablespoons, but I'm gonna start with 3 and see how it goes. So I'm just sprinkling some flour, in there, and if we need to add more, we can. And so I'm actually going to turn my heat down to a little above low. And yeah, we're going to need more flour, faux show. And we might even need a little more than that. But it needs to get soaked up. And one thing that's real important is, you don't want raw flour. You want to make sure that you give your flour some time to cook. That should probably do it. Because raw flour is yuck. So you want to get it to where the flour has soaked up the moisture from the fats. And then I'm gonna let it cook for a little while, but not too long because this is a white gravy. So the longer you cook your roux, the darker your roux is gonna get. So like if you're making beef gravy, that's a longer cook for the roux as opposed to a chicken gravy or a milk gravy. And I'm just going in and scraping so I get any of that flour and fat that's cooking together off the bottom, which we'll do more of that once we start adding our liquid. Okay, it's time to start adding our milk, and for this part I'm going to use a whisk instead of a spoon. So I am using whole milk, but 2% is fine. Anything lower fat content than that is probably going to be a little runny. So this is the only tricky part, is knowing how much milk to add. So you do it very slowly in small increments. So I'm going to add a little bit and whisk. And the reason I turned the heat down was so that I can have time to really see what it's doing. If it's cooking too fast, you can end up adding too much milk. So it's starting to get pretty pasty. So I'm going to add a little more milk. When I think I've got a pretty good consistency, I'll turn my heat back up. And any that's getting stuck in corners anywhere, make sure you get that out. So I'm gonna keep adding in those small increments until I get the consistency that I want. Okay, so this is about where I like mine. I like it pretty thick. Some people like theirs a little runnier than that. That just depends on how you like it. Now we're gonna look at seasoning. Okay, so there's the amount of pepper that I added, and I wanna say about seasoning, like you need to be careful. Don't go too heavy-handed because the sausage is already seasoned, but of course the milk and flour are not. So I'm just gonna give it a little paprika. I like the smokiness that the paprika brings. And then just a little salt, and give that a stir. Oh, that's my biscuits, maybe. And then of course, it's super important, we gotta taste it to see if it's seasoned well. It's pretty perfect. Now we've got her where we want her, so I'm just gonna cover her up. Keep it at that low heat, just for like maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. I'm actually gonna go all the way to low. And now I just want all of those flavors to mix. And there is our finished product.